There's a moon orbiting Saturn right now that scientists nicknamed a dirty snowball, and that name is almost an insult, because hidden beneath its blinding white surface is a world that shouldn't be able to do half the things it's doing. A moon with cliffs taller than skyscrapers carved by forces nobody fully understands. A moon breathing a faint trace of oxygen that has no business being there, and a moon whose very shape is wrong, subtly, mathematically, unmistakably wrong, in a way that suggests something massive and strange is sitting hidden inside it. This is Rhea, the second largest moon of Saturn, and for 300 years it has lived in almost total obscurity, overshadowed by its two famous siblings. Titan gets the headlines for its methane seas. Enceladus gets the headlines for its geysers blasting water into space. Rhea just sits there quietly, reflecting sunlight, looking simple, looking boring, looking like exactly the kind of frozen rock you'd scroll past in a textbook. But the closer scientists look at this moon, the less that story holds up. And what they've found over the last 2 decades has turned this so-called boring snowball into one of the most genuinely puzzling objects in the entire Saturn system. Our relationship with Rhea began on December 23rd, 1672, when the Italian astronomer Giovanni Cassini spotted a faint point of light orbiting Saturn and had no idea he'd just discovered a world that would still be confusing scientists 3.5 centuries later. Named after the Greek Titan goddess, mother of the Olympian gods, Rhea stretches about 1,228 kilometers across, roughly half the size of our own moon, orbiting Saturn once every 4.5 days at a distance of around 527,000 kilometers, tidally locked so that one face permanently stares at the gas giant forever, the same way our moon stares at us. And here's the first thing that should grab your attention. Rhea is blinding. About 70% of the sunlight that hits its surface bounces straight back into space, making it one of the most reflective objects in the entire solar system, a direct result of an enormous shell of water, ice coating nearly its entire surface. But don't let that clean, bright shine fool you, because zoom in and you find a battlefield, a surface absolutely saturated with craters of every size, each one a frozen scream from billions of years of cosmic violence. The largest, a scar called Mamaldi, stretches roughly 480 kilometers wide, an impact so violent it reshaped entire regions of the moon in seconds. And here's where it gets strange. Inside some of these craters, the ground is noticeably darker than the surrounding terrain, as if the impacts punched straight through Rhea's bright, icy skin and exposed something hidden underneath, something scientists still can't fully identify. These craters aren't just damage, they're windows into the moon's deep past, but they weren't even the strangest thing on the surface, because scattered across Rhea are bright streaks slicing through the landscape for hundreds of kilometers, and for decades, absolutely nobody knew what they were. When the Voyager probes flew past in the 1980s, those streaks looked like simple deposits of fresh ice, a tidy explanation for what looked like a tidy little world. Then the Cassini spacecraft arrived at Saturn, and everything changed. Its cameras revealed the truth, and the truth was almost unbelievable. Those mysterious bright lines weren't ice deposits at all. They were cliffs, towering ice cliffs, some hundreds of meters tall, slicing across the moon's surface for enormous distances, almost certainly formed billions of years ago when internal forces ripped Rhea's frozen crust apart, violently shoving sections of terrain upward into jagged walls of ice that still stand today as silent proof that this moon was once far more geologically active than anyone assumed, and the surprises didn't stop at the surface. In 2010, Cassini's instruments detected something that should not exist around a tiny frozen moon like this. An atmosphere, or more precisely, an exosphere so thin a human standing on the surface wouldn't even register it. And yet it was real, carrying actual oxygen and carbon dioxide. The amount of oxygen is trillions of atoms, times thinner than Earth's atmosphere, but the simple fact that it's there at all was a genuine shock, placing Rhea into an extremely exclusive club of worlds known to carry oxygen, born not from life, but from a brutal physical process. Saturn's powerful magnetosphere constantly bombards Rhea's icy surface with energetic particles, ripping apart water ice molecules and releasing trace oxygen into the space around the moon. It's a discovery that immediately raised an even bigger question. If the surface is hiding this much, what is buried beneath it, far from the reach of any spacecraft's cameras? To answer that, we have to go deeper, literally, into the one part of Rhea that no probe has ever directly seen. Nobody has ever looked inside this moon. Everything we know about its interior has been reconstructed from calculations, gravitational measurements, and indirect data scraped together by orbiting spacecraft. But even with those limits, the clues are fascinating. Rhea's density is barely higher than water itself, meaning the moon is built overwhelmingly from ice, with current models suggesting roughly 75% water ice and only 25% rock. An icy rocky mixture so loose that researchers half-jokingly nicknamed it a giant dirty snowball. Cassini's data revealed that the ice isn't even pure, carrying traces of trapped carbon dioxide and possibly more. Complex molecules, hinting that Rhea's chemical history might be far richer than the simple frozen ball it appears to be. For years, the leading assumption was that Rhea's US mix of ice and rock with no real internal structure, similar to a frozen slush ball straight through. But in 2006, a study proposed something that completely upended that picture. What if, buried under kilometers of solid ice, Rhea is hiding a subsurface ocean of liquid water? The idea remains speculative, nowhere near as well supported as the confirmed oceans inside Enceladus or Europa, but it's not impossible because even this far from the sun, certain moons manage to keep a water liquid deep inside thanks to internal heat and gravitational interactions with their planet. To this day, there's no definitive answer. Rhea might be nothing more than a solid frozen sphere, or it might be quietly hiding an ocean that's been sealed beneath its icy crust for billions of years, and that uncertainty alone should make you sit up. Because it gets even stranger when you look at the moon's actual shape. Most large celestial bodies naturally settle into something close to a perfect sphere because gravity constantly pulls matter toward the center, smoothing out irregularities over billions of years. Rhea mostly follows that rule, flattened slightly at the poles and bulging at the equator, which on its own wouldn't be unusual. The problem is that the amount of flattening doesn't precisely match what its current rotation speed should produce. It's a small discrepancy, but it's enough to raise a genuinely intriguing possibility. That Rhea's interior isn't as uniform as we think, that denser pockets of material might be hidden beneath the surface, quietly distorting the moon's structure in ways scientists still can't fully explain. Cassini gave researchers a chance to investigate this up close, flying multiple close passes over more than a decade in orbit, including one breathtaking flyby in January 2011 that brought the spacecraft to just 76 kilometers above Rhea's surface, practically skimming the moon by astronomical standards. And the images it captured were extraordinary, revealing ancient cratered terrain sitting right beside smoother, younger plains, likely formed when massive impacts blasted material into space, that later rained back down and buried older scars beneath fresh debris. But perhaps the most fascinating discovery from the entire mission was something Cassini didn't find. Years earlier, data from the spacecraft had hinted at something nobody had ever seen around a moon before, a possible ring system. The measurements showed disturbances in the flow of electrons around Rhea, patterns that looked exactly like what you'd expect from particles orbiting the moon in a thin disk. For a moment, scientists considered the genuinely mind-bending possibility of a moon with its own rings, quietly orbiting inside Saturn's much larger ring system, a structure within a structure, a cosmic nesting doll. But when Cassini turned its instruments toward Rhea for a direct, detailed look, the evidence simply wasn't there. No rings, no particle disk, nothing confirmed. It was as if the rings had vanished before they were ever truly found. And the debate still isn't settled, with some researchers arguing the original measurements had another explanation entirely, while others insist a faint, nearly undetectable disk might still be sitting there, just out of reach of our instruments. Meanwhile, Rhea keeps making its silent 4.5-day loops around Saturn, embedded inside the planet's enormous outer ring system, a structure built largely from ice particles blasted into space by the geysers of its sibling moon Enceladus. And maybe that's exactly what makes Rhea so compelling. Every answer we find seems to open up two more questions. A moon that looked simple turned out to carry an unexpected atmosphere, ice cliffs taller than buildings, a possible hidden ocean, a shape that doesn't add up, and a ring system that may or may not have ever existed. So the real question becomes, what else is Rhea still hiding from us? Throughout this journey, we've gotten to know a moon that almost never makes headlines, a world living quietly in the shadow of giants like Titan and Enceladus, yet carrying enough unanswered mysteries to rival almost anything else in the solar system. Rhea might look like nothing more than a bright ball of ice circling Saturn in silence, but look even slightly closer, and you find an entire hidden world underneath that polished, reflective shell. Maybe future missions, carrying instruments far more advanced than anything Cassini ever flew, will finally answer these questions. Maybe when they do, we'll discover that Rhea is even stranger and more complex than anything we've described here today. But here's what we can already say for certain. Rhea is proof that our solar system is still packed with extraordinary worlds, places that for centuries were nothing more than faint points of light in the night sky and are only now, slowly, beginning to reveal the incredible stories of how they formed, how they evolved, and what secrets they're still keeping. And maybe that's the real lesson this distant little moon has to offer, because the deeper we explore the universe, the more clearly we see just how much we still don't understand. Somewhere out there right now, silently circling Saturn, Rhea keeps reflecting sunlight back into the void, an ancient, frozen, seemingly peaceful little world that might still be holding the answers to questions we haven't even learned to ask yet. SEO optimized description. Hidden in the shadow of Saturn's most famous moons is a world that scientists nicknamed a dirty snowball. And that name is almost insulting because Rhea is hiding things that shouldn't be possible. In this documentary, we explore Saturn's second largest moon, a surface scarred by billion-year-old impact. Craters, mysterious ice cliffs hundreds of meters tall that were misidentified for decades, a faint trace of oxygen that has no right to exist around a frozen moon this small, a shape that doesn't match its rotation speed, a possible hidden subsurface ocean sealed beneath kilometers of ice, and even a brief, tantalizing hint of rings that vanished the moment scientists looked closer. While Titan gets the attention for its methane seas and Enceladus for its water geysers, Rhea has quietly been rewriting what we thought we knew about icy moons throughout the solar system. Using data from NASA's Cassini mission, we break down every strange detail scientists have uncovered about this overlooked world and ask the question nobody can fully answer yet. What is Rhea still hiding from us? Subscribe for more deep space documentaries exploring the most extreme, mysterious, and overlooked worlds in our solar system. Zero. The mystery of Saturn's forgotten moon. 30. How Rhea was discovered and what makes it unique. 4, the bright streaks that turned out to be giant ice cliffs. 630. Rhea's impossible oxygen atmosphere. 09. What's hiding beneath the ice? A possible ocean? 12. The shape that doesn't add up. 1430. The rings that disappeared. 17. What Rhea is still hiding from us.